Something very serious is happening in the world right now. And if you have been following the news today, you already know that the situation between the United States and Iran has taken a dramatic and dangerous turn. We are going to walk through everything together, calmly and clearly, so that by the end of this video, you fully understand what happened, why it happened, and what it means for the rest of the world. Let us start from the beginning. Iran has officially announced that it carried out a direct military strike on a United States military helicopter base. This announcement came from Iranian state officials, and it was made publicly and with full confidence. Iran did not hide this. Iran did not deny it. Iran proudly claimed it. That alone tells you something very important about where the relationship between these two countries currently stands. According to Iranian officials, the strike was carried out using ballistic missiles and military drones. The target was not a civilian area. The target was specifically a helicopter base used by American military forces in the region. Helicopter bases are important military facilities. They house the aircraft that transport soldiers, conduct surveillance missions, and provide air support during combat operations. Attacking one is a very deliberate and very serious military decision. The United States military, for its part, has responded carefully. American officials have confirmed that an incident occurred, but they have been very measured in what they are saying publicly. They have not confirmed the full details of the damage. They have not confirmed exactly how many aircraft or facilities were affected. This kind of careful, limited response from Washington is actually quite common when a sensitive military situation is still developing and when the government is still deciding how to respond. But make no mistake, the world understands what has happened. A nation has directly attacked a United States military installation. That is not a small thing. That is not something that gets quietly forgotten. And the entire international community is watching very carefully to see how America responds in the coming hours and days. Now, to understand why Iran took this step, we need to understand the broader picture. For many years, the United States and Iran have been engaged in a tense and complicated rivalry. America has maintained military bases across the Middle East, in countries like Iraq, Qatar, Bahrain, and others. Iran views this military presence as a direct threat to its security and its regional influence. Tehran has repeatedly warned that it will not tolerate what it calls American aggression on its doorstep. Over the past several months, tensions between the two countries have been rising steadily. There have been smaller confrontations, warnings exchanged at the highest levels of government, and a growing sense among analysts that something larger was coming. And now, it appears that something larger has arrived. Iran is not a country that expects to defeat the United States in a direct conventional war. Iranian military and political leaders understand the enormous difference in military power between the two nations. But Iran is extremely skilled at a different kind of strategy. It uses carefully calculated moves to impose costs, send messages, and create political problems for its adversaries. By striking this base and then publicly claiming credit, Iran is doing several things at once. It is showing its own people that it is strong. It is signaling to its allies across the region that it will not back down. And it is testing the political will of Washington to see how far the United States is willing to go. The response from global markets has already been significant. Oil prices moved sharply following the news. Shipping companies that operate through the Persian Gulf are monitoring the situation closely. Several international airlines have already begun rerouting flights that pass through the region. These economic ripple effects remind us that what happens in the Middle East does not stay in the Middle East. It affects energy prices, supply chains, and economies around the entire world. America's allies in Europe and Asia are watching this situation with deep concern. Several European governments have already issued statements calling for restraint from both sides. Behind closed doors, diplomats are working urgently to understand the full picture and to explore whether any off-ramps exist, any pathways that allow both sides to step back from the edge without either one looking weak in front of its own people. Now let us turn to something that is happening simultaneously inside the United States itself, because this part of the story is just as important. At the same moment that missiles were striking a military base in the Middle East, hundreds of thousands of ordinary American citizens were taking to the streets in cities across the entire country. In New York, in Los Angeles, in Chicago, in Washington, D.C., in Seattle, Houston, Boston, Denver, and dozens of other cities. People of all ages, all backgrounds, and all political beliefs came together for one shared reason. They do not want another war. These are not small gatherings. These are large, sustained, emotionally powerful demonstrations. And what is remarkable about them is who is participating. You are not just seeing the usual political activists. You are seeing military veterans who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. You are seeing university students who were children when those wars began. You are seeing parents who are thinking about their sons and daughters in uniform. You are seeing teachers, nurses, engineers, and workers of every kind standing together in the streets, holding signs, and making their voices heard. The message they are sending to Washington is simple and direct. We remember Iraq. We remember Afghanistan. We remember the cost of those wars, the trillions of dollars spent, the thousands of lives lost, the families broken, the soldiers who came home carrying wounds that never fully healed. We are not willing to go through that again, not for another conflict in another country that we do not fully understand and cannot fully control. The political impact of these protests is already being felt in Washington. Several members of Congress, from both the Democratic and Republican parties, have come forward publicly to oppose further military escalation. Some are calling for emergency hearings. Others are demanding that the president seek congressional approval before authorizing any military response. The anti-war movement is no longer just a crowd in the streets. It is becoming a political force that elected officials cannot easily ignore. The White House is facing a genuinely difficult situation. If the administration responds to Iran's strike with major military force, it risks triggering a full-scale war that its own citizens are loudly and clearly saying they do not want. But if the administration responds too cautiously, it risks looking weak, and a perception of weakness in the Middle East can invite further aggression from Iran and create doubts among American allies who depend on Washington's security guarantees. This is the impossible balance that American presidents have faced again and again in this region. The military logic pulls in one direction. The political reality pulls in another. And history teaches us that the decisions made in moments like this one often define entire presidencies, and sometimes entire eras of world history. What comes next is genuinely uncertain. The most hopeful outcome is that both sides choose to de-escalate, that back-channel diplomacy creates space for both governments to lower the temperature without either one losing face. The most dangerous outcome is a cycle of retaliation that neither side fully controls, where each strike leads to a counterstrike, and the conflict grows larger than anyone originally intended. What is clear is this: the world is at a crossroads, and the choices made in the next few days, in Tehran, in Washington, and yes, in the streets of American cities, will shape what kind of world we are all living in for years to come. If today's video gave you a clearer picture of what is happening and why it matters, please take a moment to like it and share it. The more people understand these events, the better. Subscribe so you do not miss any updates as this situation continues to develop. I will be back with more as the story unfolds.